Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking with James here, and we are going to be talking about what game designers actually do. There's a lot of misconceptions concerning day-to-day life of a game designer. So what is the day-to-day work of a game designer like?
Yeah, it's going to depend a lot on the type of design you do, but a lot of it is about communication. A lot of it is about coordinating with your team. And then it's about getting into the nitty gritty of how a system works, how a function of your game is going to work, documenting it out, play testing it. Uh, there's no one answer to this,
Yeah.
but a lot of it is hands on. Like you want to be on the software. If you've got software, you need to be playing it and testing it and understanding how it functions. That's what it's really all about. So you can talk to your coders, animators, artists, and say, we're not quite on track here, or we need to iterate because this isn't fun in this way, and start targeting those fixes and explaining to people on your team why it's important to make those changes.
So I want to give some context here. So a lot of people misunderstand that design has something to do with the art or something to do with the code. You can be a great artist, you can be a great programmer and be a designer, and often you should be doing some of those things. But a designer is chiefly bringing together the ideas. Am I saying that right?
So it's not about the ideas so much as it is about understanding what makes the game, right?
Okay.
You can be talking about ideas for it, but a lot of the time it's the nitty gritty work of translating a plan into action and
Gotcha.
understanding. Okay, if we're going to have a weapon system, how many weapons? What do the weapons do? How many functions do I need? Do they have secondary fires? Are we going to have mods on these weapons?
Yeah.
And planning all that kind of stuff out to a degree where then your coders can understand, oh, we're going to have to build a lot of things here and feedback on it and tell you good or bad ways to approach it. Your artists can start to understand, all right, these are the types of things we're going to have to model. That's what a designer is doing, is laying out the plan and taking that plan to a place where everyone can act on it.
Great. And that leads right into our second question, which is what are the skills necessary to become a successful designer?
Yeah, so humility is definitely up there.
Yeah.
Especially as you start your game design journey, your ideas don't really matter a lot, to be quite frank. You're going to be working on someone else's game, probably. If you're working
Yeah.
on your own game, okay, that's nice. But also understanding that even all of your best ideas aren't going to go well the first time. You're going to have to get feedback on them. They're going to change. And a lot of people get too hung up on, I have to fight for my ideas and protect them. No,
Yeah.
let them die if they're not working. And that sense of it's all about what's best for the game and how you can push that forward. And then ultimately communication, not only inwards to your team, but hearing what your team is saying to you, hearing what your play testers are telling you, and being able to draw in all that information into a
Yeah.
focused, what happens next? What are our next steps? What are our action plans from that?
Definitely. Couldn't agree more. And I think it's great to communicate well, be really humble. I lead a team, and you can see up here, he has experience, 17 years of experience at EA Ubisoft. We lead a team of volunteers. And in my personal experience, it's been the greatest designers have not been the people who push an idea or get attached to an idea, but the greatest designers are those who give ideas and who share ideas and who care about other people's ideas and who celebrate them and bring things together. They unite people rather than get possessive over stuff. And I think that's one of the reasons I probably will never be a great designer, is because I have a little bit too much aggression in me and I've got to let it go. And that's why we have other people doing great design around here. Okay,
Yeah,
so go ahead.
it's so hard for people to learn that, and
Yeah.
the best way you can do it is just start making things, right, and see how it goes and learn that, yep, this isn't the right way. I have to do things that work best for my team.
So what kind of training and education do you need to become a game designer?
It varies wildly. I don't think you need any one specific thing.
Okay.
And game designers can come from all sorts of backgrounds, be it they've come from art and code and they're transferring into game design. But I've had people with English majors. I've had people that are strong in architecture. You can use and translate almost anything as inspiration and basis for your game design. That said, understanding how the tech works that you're working on, and I don't mean computers. It's probably computers, but you could be a board game designer. You could be a card game designer, right? Understanding how the mechanics of your systems work, and being able to talk about it with other people. So you can go through educational programs and learn a lot of that stuff. You can watch YouTube videos. You can get your hands on a Unity or an Unreal and start developing. But ultimately, the best experience that a game designer has is making games. Doesn't matter what kind. Make board games, digital games, any sort of games. Because it takes that experience of seeing what works and what doesn't, and understanding how to translate a player's user experience into a plan and a design.
Interesting. So if I get this right, what a designer is doing is they are not sitting in a dark room with a pen and paper coming up with the idea. They are in the middle of a team. They are communicating with their team. They're pitching ideas. They're getting feedback constantly, and they're helping things mesh across the board.
Yeah, a lot of day-to-day game designers aren't working on their own ideas. They're not even necessarily pitching their own ideas.
Interesting.
They're working under a lead game designer or a director, and they've been given direction. It's
Yeah.
not their job to necessarily pitch ideas about the game, but it is their job to come up with the best solutions for how to actualize and how to translate direction into plans. And so that's where you may have ideas, like you've worked on weapon systems before, you worked on driving and handling systems before. You can have some plans there, but it is about making sure that you're hearing what your team is telling you. You're going to lay out the initial first plan, and they're going to go, well, that's bad because it's not going to work over the network. Oh,
Yeah.
right, I'm not a network coder, and get those bits of feedback in there.
I want to jump in because this is something you taught us that really empowered us in a really great way, and I think everybody should hear it. This is not part of the script of the video, but I think everybody should see this, and I'm just gonna go into, I'll pop this onto my screen. Let's see if I can do this here live. Okay, so guys, we have a forum back here, and we are gonna click on design, and we have wonderful design people here who embody the sorts of things we're going for, but let's go to just one particular document here, Jellydo. Okay, so this is really what you have taught us, James, is to look at our goals first and foremost. And now you'll see at the top of all of our documents, not only the feature summary, so you don't have to read the whole thing, but the goals. We have clear goals that when we have a conversation about something, we're not arguing over features, we're arguing over how do we best implement goals. And I would encourage everybody, do this. This is gonna change the game for you. Creative arguments break up teams, especially when you're working with small teams. You put goals in first, you won't have these. You'll just talk about what's best for the goal, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. This was hard learned for me as well, and it's took me most of my career to really embrace it.
Yeah.
But it's very easy for someone to want to say, I've got a great idea, and they want to throw that idea in the mix, and then it's either accepted and you feel great, but most likely it's rejected and it feels extremely personal, right?
Yeah.
And I don't like your idea. And then on the flip side, a game designer or a producer, someone else is saying no to someone else's idea.
Yeah.
Whereas instead, if you're always talking about, well, the goal of this is to make our weapons feel more powerful, everyone's tossing out ideas and everyone's going to probably gravitate toward, ooh, that one makes the most sense for our goal. And it's not about, oh, I had the best and I pitched it in the best, and or I personally got shot down. Because usually what happens is the flip side of having to say no to someone doesn't come in the form of, no, you're wrong. It comes in the form of, how does that meet our goal?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
then you can think about it and go, oh yeah, you're right, this doesn't meet our goal.
Yeah.
And it's not a personal attack, it's not a fight, it's a conversation.
And I'm going to interrupt right there and say, guys, if you want to learn these skills, jump over here. We'd love to have you. We love training, mentoring, empowering people. We'll start you off on something small, and we would love to have you be part of what we're doing. We act as a place where anybody can come in and be part of creative projects, and you can work with others on them and grow your knowledge in a very practical way. So you can be part of everything that's going on here. We would love to have you be part. I'd love to get into, because I think a lot of people searching this up, what do game designers do, will also be interested to know, what is the most satisfying part of being a game designer?
Once your software is stood up, and maybe it's not software, but once your game is functioning and seeing it working and seeing it playing and seeing people play it and have fun with it. Yeah. That is ultimately what you want out of your game, is to create fun, to create joy, to create emotional experiences. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. Yeah. But when you hit that magic and you find that thing, like anyone can clone a game. But as we've talked about in the past, it's what did you bring to it that gets people excited and makes their eyes light up and makes them want to talk about your game. That is the most satisfying part. And it takes a mix of skill, and quite frankly, it takes a bit of luck.
Awesome. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to do something really practical to intervene in this, and we're going to pitch an idea, and this is purely raw. This is live. You're getting a live reaction of him, and I'm going to explain some changes we've made to our game loop so you can see what we're doing in practice, and we're going to get some feedback from James, and when we do that, hopefully you guys will benefit too. So let me get rid of this Sky Island here and show a little bit of our original game loop and why we changed it and what your thoughts on it are here. So basically, our original pitch is that, oh, I gotta get used to Miro again. Many wholesome games are incredibly short, and very few sandbox games are peaceful. Our game seeks to bridge the gap between those genres. So there's so many cute games that have no content. We want to have you interact with these cute creatures in a living world, a living environment where the creatures are real. That was the pitch for the game. Now, originally we had 3 pillars: compassion, creativity, and exploration. And these 3 pillars basically were all equal, and you got creatures from the blocks, then you built to other islands, and then you found cool things on the other islands. Now, there was a couple of problems with this. One, you leave the creatures behind. It's all about the creatures, and you're constantly leaving them behind. And I love that our designers pushed us in this way. And again, when I say they pushed us, they asked questions. Great designers didn't push this on us. They asked questions. Is that really what we want people to be doing? Leaving the jellies behind if our game is unique because of these features? And they convinced us to go all the way down to what we have today, and that is this loop. Oh, sorry. Find resources, nurture the jelly. The jelly gives you something called honeydew, and then you give that jelly dew to the island heart. It's something in the middle of the island, and then you use that to get blocks. The blocks allow you to find more things, and then you feed those things or give those things to the jelly, and it goes round and round and round. And so we changed that fundamentally to focus on the jelly, so you're always going back to the jelly to nurture the jelly. Thoughts on this game loop? Oh, we've lost your audio.
Sorry.
There we go. We're back.
I was on mute. I think what you've really keyed in on here, especially, is the loop, right? In the original pitch that you showed off, there wasn't a loop.
Yeah.
There was kind of a linear set of steps that you were doing that ultimately led you to the end rather than a continual engagement. And the best thing you can do is understand what engages a player and create that loop so you can repeat it over and over. It's very easy to create a whole bunch of new mechanics that would then ultimately kind of try and replicate your original pitch and just over and over, but that's extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're using your mechanics to follow this loop, then you can just tweak the loop a little bit next time. What happens if the jelly gets twice as big? Or what happens if you feed them wood and they become hard and wooden, and you can start to play with that loop over and over, and players don't have to constantly be learning a whole new set of things. They can follow this loop over and over and feel that reward and that exploration happening. So to see this loop, it makes a lot of sense. I could see this starting to play out in a way that, yep, I get it. I understand that what I want to do in my head is very clear. I want to be nurturing that jelly, and I want to be growing my island. And ultimately, the more I do that, the more it expands my ability to do that, right? I'm getting more blocks, which should hopefully allow me to connect to new places and build new things that expand my ability to continue that loop. And that's what is exciting for a player, is they have a bit of agency, but they also have that sense of unknown and excitement of exploration.
I want to jump in right there and say this was our really big mistake. So James really helped us understand that we need to be putting in this loop here. Everything needs to loop. The reason is, again, you can't just create a new game every time. A game isn't a mishmash of things to visit and different features. You have a core of why people care about your game, what experience you want them to have when they come, that deep emotional bond they get, and they get that through a loop. So if your game idea does not have some sort of loop to it, think about it, rethink about it in the idea of a loop. That'll help you design a great game out of your idea.
Yeah, and you can see that in almost any game. There's from the ideas you've laid out here that help the player understand the core function of your game. There's great talks from the guys who made Halo about how it's basically a 30-second experience expanded and repeated many, many times. That is their core loop of you run into a new room, you find a new combat encounter, you have new weapons, but ultimately it's about doing that combat loop over and over and over, and they change up the variables involved. And so having that is essential for the player's engagement.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, if you want to join a group of people where we do this on a regular basis, you can check out that Discord link up there. And if you'd like to be part, we're looking for contributors in multiple ways. People who want to be part of making a game together, learning the process, embracing the journey of learning that process together with a team, but also people who want to mentor and empower others. We're a hobbyist group, and we have lots of people that just love sewing into people's lives and seeing them built up. And if you want to be a part of that, we would love to have you. You can check that same link out there up and join us and be a part of everything that's going on. We would absolutely love to have you. I'm going to leave the next video in the middle of the screen. We're going to talk about, let me see here. We're going to talk about what we, I had a link. You'll see it. I've messed this one up. It'll be right here in the middle. The next video, I have it somewhere. I'm a professional stand-back. I know exactly what's going on. It's right there in the middle of the screen. And we'll leave it there for you.